What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and let's dive into the really awesome 50th anniversary WizKids set. You can see this box right here. This is every single mini in the 50th anniversary set. The team at WizKids sent this over for unboxing purposes. I thought we would dive in. I'll show you where it is. It's available on Amazon right now, as well as on dndmini.com. And this is the really cool set in that it's 50 minis, 50th anniversary, but each one there's a first edition art version of it and then a fifth edition. Well, mind you, this is fifth edition 2024, so who knows if things will change. But like it'll be the Gith Yankee that's on the front cover of, I think it's what's it, the Fiend Folio, and then a current generation Gith Yankee. You'll have OG first edition Lolth and then fifth edition Lolth. Vecna from first edition, Vecna from fifth edition. So I really like this set. I actually have only seen a couple of the minis. I haven't looked through just from like looking at promo art. So if we go ahead and jump over to Amazon, it does look like a brick of 8 here on Amazon. It's going to run you $180. There will be an Amazon affiliate link in the description if you want to go ahead and check it out. And if you do decide to pick it up from that link, I will benefit slightly monetarily from that. You can see some of the differences between the art pieces here. Here is the 50th anniversary section of the WizKids website. You can see they have it actually listed as $199 on their website, so a little bit cheaper on Amazon. And then I went to go check on the D&D Mini website, and it looks like it says back order here, but it does appear to be you can add it to your cart here. Again, the 50th anniversary says it will not ship until the product release. It says it's on back order. I believe it's already out. So again, it does look like it is viable here, saying it's shipping from the WizKids store, although it is listed as Noble Knight Games Incorporated here on Amazon. So just be mindful of that. But it says it's releasing Q1 2025. Okay, so I actually thought that this was out already, but I guess maybe we're still in pre-order mode. This doesn't list it as a pre-order. This says they have one left in stock and ships next week. So I don't know if it's the back order will ship because it's sold out. That might actually be what it is. So without further ado, let's jump into the mini cam so we can go ahead and take a look at these a little bit more up close and personal and see what we have. So the way this is going to work is they're all just kind of, there's no boxes to open. It's all just in bubble wrap. So we have, first up is our 5th edition Gold Dragon? Young Gold Dragon here. So what I also think is interesting is that they just released this 50th anniversary set, and then they redesigned all the dragons, right? All the dragons have been redesigned to be the new 5th edition 2024. So actually this, to some degree, you could almost consider this a collector's item because these kind of gold dragons, this mini that has this design, is technically not canon anymore to the world of 5th edition, as they've changed it to be the more kind of serpentine-looking dragon. But here we can see our 5th edition gold dragon. So this is just going to kind of be at random. Whatever I pull out is what I pull out. We'll just have to go from there. All right. Then we have, and we'll see if we can't pull them side by side if we manage to get. So we have and it says on the bottom 5E. So here you can see it says Afridi 5E. So here is our 5th edition Afridi. And again, some of these minis have already existed. We've seen these in a variety. We had a little bit more transparent fire here on the base of the Afridi. Trying to get a good look at the face. Can't really get a great definition on the face there, but it's not bad. These minis are solid. Again, the bigger minis usually do pretty well, I'd say. All right, what do we got next here? We have, oh, is this just Venger? Okay, he must be like all right, it's just Venger. I don't think we have like a 5th edition version of it. It just says Venger on the bottom, yeah. So he's just an extra little kind of surprise mini inside here is just Venger, which actually the face looks fantastic. It's a really good capturing of the character of Venger. A little bit of smudging on the paint here on the back here, but Venger from the D&D cartoon series. All right, next up, we dropped one. Next up we have Here we go. The first edition Ifriti. We'll go ahead and back ourselves out here. So this might be familiar to a lot of you. May recognize this. They even did a full statue so we can get a little comparison here. Is our first edition and our fifth edition Ifriti. I personally like the. Actually, I'm not really sure which one I prefer style wise. I think I like the mini of the first edition one better. I think I'd like just the way it looks. It's got the big kind of the fireball in the hand here, but I think I like the overall fifth edition design for the creature better. Feel free to let me know which ones you like the best in the comments down below. All right, next up we have this is a small size or medium size mini. We have this is first edition Acererak, which has a way different design than the Acererak we know from Tomb of Annihilation. Pretty interesting though, I gotta say. I don't know why my spinning platform's taking everything out of focus when we spin it, but either way. Kind of digging his vibe there. It gets the Lich vibe across for sure. Next up, we actually have, it looks like we have the entirety of the cartoon characters. So we have Sheila and I really like this mini. We have Sheila from the D&D cartoon, and I love that she's wearing her cloak of invisibility, and it's like kind of a transparent. You can see this if you look at the back. Like it's turning invisible. I really like that. That's a clever way to showcase that it's a cloak of invisibility. Although there looks to be a little bit of extra plastic on her arm there, and the face. It actually has pretty solid definition on the face there, but you can see again, looks like extra little bits of clumps of plastic retained on the arms there. All right, what's next? We have a green slod from 5e. I love the 5th edition looks of the slods. That's very, this one looks like it might be hunched over a little bit. But we have this big green toad. We've got a nice definition on the armor there. Solid overall build. The skull on the pauldron and the skull on the staff could maybe use a little bit of love, but overall, a solid miniature. I like that one a lot. This is, what is this? This is A Fiend in Hell. I think this is from one of the front covers. This one is kind of fits more into the classic creatures design. Gonna have this very smudgy paint. I think it's supposed to be that way though, to replicate the original creature design. Again, a little bit leaning. You might be able to fix this with hot water or a heat gun. Again, if this is something more iconic that I'm just not recognizing, forgive me. That's just my 3rd edition and beyond mindset of having only started playing D&D 20-something years ago. So, I apologize. We have the Blue Wizard. Here we go. We're getting more. This actually, I really like this one. We've got like a wand with some spell kind of magic coming off of it, and this torch here. And we can even get a little bit of definition in his face with the differing colors of his beard. And then again, a classic traditional blue wizard robe, stars and moons and suns and things on it. Very cool. All right, let's keep going. We got a bigger one here. What do we got? We have the Eidolon, I believe. Hang on. Stuck in the bubble wrap. Yes, the 5th edition version of the Eidolon here. This one missing the ruby from the eye. But, upright, we have the pool of fire. Again, we have the very well-defined craggy stone sort of texture here. I like it. I don't feel like Eidolons get used a lot in current D&D games, but then again, they also weren't only added with 5th edition stat blocks relatively recently. Okay. We have, the classic Red Warrior from the front cover of, the Red Box? This is pretty popular. A lot of folks will recognize this. You'll see him, imagine his sword was straighter, but like that, showing off against that red dragon in the background there. Very classic pose, very classic mini, and well designed, honestly. This one has really good definition on a lot of the armor and things. Is that a little ampersand? You see that? The little D&D logo ampersand in the middle of his chest armor? Like that. It's a nice little touch. Okay. All right, looks like I think we're at 5th edition Vecna here. Yeah, there he is. Which is just kind of skeletal, almost arcano-mechanical golden bits on him, pulling some purple magic from inside a spell book here. And again, has that very, very skeletal frame and look to him. Very cool. We'll see. We'll get somewhere in here is the 1st edition version of Vecna. Oh, what do we got here? I got a Pit Fiend, I think. All right, we got the 5e Pit Fiend. I do feel like we probably could have done a little bit of better job on the paint job because he just feels very red, you know, like we could have differentiated maybe a little bit of a darker wash to kind of further accentuate the kind of whatever this is, armor or plates on the legs, as well as the, you know, the abs and the looks like almost scales over here, but we could see very clearly a necklace with multiple skulls. We have these kind of gauntlets here with the skulls on the upper arms. The wings on the back look a little bit better defined. I don't know if it's coming through on the camera. We can see again the ridges there on the tail. And again, the badass mace that is known for Pit Fiends to have. Once again, a little hot water or a heat gun to sort of bend that into the position you want it in to keep it there permanently. What do we got next? Okay, we have a paladin in hell. So we have our fiend in hell and our paladin in hell to show off and face off against one another. Again, very traditional paladin. I think the artwork originally had the shield turned upside down. If I recall, this piece that they're referencing, so I like that they carried that into the mini, that the paladin's shield is in fact upside down. But again, just a generic kind of knight situation. I like the two of them sort of intertwined with one another. It's a pretty cool little set piece there. Oh, we got a big guy. What do we got? Ooh, I think we got the 5e flail snail. Ugh, love this mini. This is absolutely one of my favorite creatures and one of my favorite miniatures. I love that you can see the iridescence in the shell because I think these are used to make, you know, robe of, what is it, scintillating colors or something like that. This has become one of my favorite 5th edition creatures by and far, and the miniature is definitely top notch. One of the best created thus far. So thank you to WizKids again for sending this over and for making such a bang up job, doing such a bang up job on the flail snail miniature. All right, here we have 1E Vecna. Again, you'll probably recall the Vecna Lives or the Vecna Must Die. I forget which one it is of the iconic adventure cover. So here is a little side-by-side showcasing our bony boy here compared to his 5th edition version. You know, the 5th edition one does appear more dead, right? More undead, more skeletal, more alien, if you will. But I think something about the classic version, you know? The hair throws it off for me a little bit, but I like the more classic style robes. I like the being on top of a mound of skeletons or you know, dead things there. I think that's a really nice touch. So I think the mini for me, the design, the what's it called? The 1E mini, I think wins on the design. Here is your 1st edition flail snail. Many, many, many more flails, it looks like. Or it just feels that way. And honestly, this looks like to me, which I think is, you know, again, to replicate the original design, it just feels like it could be made out of Play-Doh to me. But, I mean, cool nonetheless, but we gotta give it to the new boy. I mean, this is just so much cooler. Still a cool mini nonetheless, and you could definitely do something if you wanted to do. You're going to use these minis at your table, like different versions of flail snails. Maybe this is like a older version. Maybe that's a younger version. Maybe there's just different flail snails from different regions or something. I think they're really cool. They're currently, I think, my favorite minis of the set so far. Although, again, having the cartoon characters is kind of a nice little extra added benefit. Oh, man. We've got 1E Strahd von Zarovich. You may remember him from the front cover of the Expedition to Castle Ravenloft. And he's just straight up Dracula. I mean, that's kind of what he is. Very classic, very Bela Lugosi style, classic Castlevania style vampire Dracula here. And that's fine. We'll get to our new version of Strahd here when we get to him. We have our Green Knight. Again, here kind of wearing the traditional sort of Green Knight armor with, we can obviously see the green shield on the back, wielding a bow with a sword at the hip. Or is that a quiver? Sword at the hip. Very cool. What do we got next one here? Oh, this Bigby? Mordenkainen. Okay, we have the... see, I think this one's going to do it for me. This one's going to be a pretty big winner. This is first edition Mordenkainen before he went bald. This one's awesome, man. Look at the hand with the fire coming off of it and this cool, like, scepter or wand wielding that magic. We've got this dagger at the hilt here, or at the hip, rather. I like the classic beard. As somebody with a lot of white in their beard, I feel that. I think first edition Mordenkainen, no offense to Todd Kenreck, but I do feel like 5th edition Mordenkainen just looks like a clone of Todd Kenreck. I think I like first edition Mordenkainen way better. All right, we've got first edition Lolth here. Again, in her drow form, you can see the high sort of webbed collar. Just kind of nothing too crazy, kind of to just function as a regular old drow or a matron mother. Nothing too crazy there. All right. What do we got? We have a first edition Glabrazu. Still keeping the same general design of the Glabrazu. Definitely a little more, like, goofier looking, I guess. More cartoonish, I guess you could say. The face is kind of giving me... I was originally saying from straight on, kind of like, was giving me almost like cartoon dog Scooby-Doo vibes on the face. But when I turn it sideways, I am 100% getting Biker Mice from Mars from this character. I will say, I think the claws, right? If we back out, the pincers, the sort of like claws that the Glabrazu have, these look way more dangerous and menacing than the 5th edition version, which are much more like crab-like. These look way more dangerous. Oh, although this random like punchy fist right in the middle there, that feels like the design a little bit off, but I do kind of like the Thor, classic Thor style wings that seem to be popping off the top of the head there. Oh, here we go. Here is 5th edition Mordenkainen. Now, I do like the inclusion of Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound here, but man, this staff just seems impractical, you know? You're Mordenkainen. You've got the Faithful Hound. You've got the sword. This staff just seems unwieldy. Like, it feels like it wants to be a Klingon Batleth, but it doesn't want to be because he's still Mordenkainen. He's still a wizard. Tell me that the first edition Mordenkainen doesn't feel more like a wizard to me. This guy could be like a knockoff fighter ranger with a ghost pet. This screams wizard. This screams... I don't really know what I want to do, but I don't know. That's just me. I feel like the classic Mordenkainen look is just way better in my opinion. All right, we've got our Kieran here. This looks like a 5th edition Kieran. Unfortunately, it does look like it's separated from the base. Again, something, if you're dealing with minis, always best, as you can see here. Unfortunately, it's separated. There's a post spot for this foot to go in. It has separated itself, but Very imposing, very regal. I'm loving the gold. You can see the very crisp definition of the scales on the side, as well as the sort of iridescent chest paint. The horn looks a little funky to me. It looks like it got a little smudgy on the paint on the horn, but the mane and the tail look fantastic. Again, if this were to fit into its post there, it would look more, if I can do this one-handed, more like a little more regal looking, like this, more unicorn-esque. I do love the very clear definition of the slitted pupils in the eyes. A very good job on that. So again, a little bit of super glue in that post to hold that foot into place should rectify the main issue there. What do we got? I think this is just a shadow demon, or just a shadow, perhaps. Sorry, these little bubble wrap containers are hard to get through there. Here we go. This is a shadow demon, 5th edition. Very cool. I've had many shadow demons from the 5th edition set over the years. This, without a doubt, hands down, is the best one. The sort of, they usually go from a more like totally translucent black. I'm loving this starting out clear and fade to black look on it. This is very well done. I like that I can actually see the definition in like the wings in the back, as opposed to normally just kind of being like a slightly translucent grayish black blob. This does appear to actually showcase this pretty well, which I'm definitely a fan of. And again, you can even get a little bit of good definition on the shadow's face there as well. Very cool. Well, this one broke off its base. This is our 1st edition gold dragon. It broke off its base, unfortunately. And it just flat out broke off its base, huh? This is a bit of a bummer. All right, let me see if I can put this back together. There's supposed to be a post. That post is shattered. Where's the other? Oh, okay, it goes. This is a really cool homage that they did. I don't know if it'll stay. Maybe we can get it to stay long enough to get the mini review, but they kept the more serpentine look of the dragon for this, as you can see. And they kept that from first edition, which is what we're seeing now in the updated 5th edition rules, but they made it into the ampersand of the D&D the D&D ampersand logo with the fire. I really, really like this. So unfortunately, as you can see, there was a post right there, and that post attaches right there to the base. Again, unfortunate for the purposes of this that it came apart. This is definitely not WizKids' fault. This might have been on the Postal Service, or maybe even myself from just manhandling it before I got around to reviewing it. But absolutely great definition on the face of this dragon. The overall look is just phenomenal. I love taking the time to pay homage again to the classic 1st edition design, but then also still find a way to tie it into the 50th anniversary and Dungeons and Dragons. A little bit of a pretty big separation here in the sculpt, though, in the mold, where the mold came together for those pieces. But either way, great job on the paint. We'll have to, you know what, we said we were going to do a comparison. So we'll go ahead, again, I'm going to have my hand in here to kind of hold it up. But like I said, a little bit of CA glue of some kind. We'll go ahead and fix that for us. Go ahead and see if we can't get that. Especially knowing the transition coming to the Gold Dragon, I got to give it to the 1st edition Gold Dragon on this one. I think while the 5th edition design is cool, the 1st edition one is it's just cooler, honestly. All right, now we have the 1st edition Eidolon, which, again, very much kept the same design between the two. This one, however, has not had its gemstone eye removed and is in its current sitting formation with the bowl of fire in front of it, whereas the 5th edition Eidolon has stood up, having had the eyeball removed, and is now in kind of attack mode, if you will. But either way, they are basically identical. And it's also nice to some degree to have some creatures retain almost the exact same look to them. because they don't all need to change. I like seeing the updated art, especially when it looks like, if you look at some of the old classic creature designs, like the old owl bear looks nothing like the current version of the owl bear, but I like the change on that. But the Eidolon, it's just a statue. All right, well, we gotta give it to 5th edition Lolth, because they gave 5th edition Lolth her full-on spider form here. We can see all of the various legs, all of the chitinous exoskeleton of 5th edition Lolth. So if we're gonna do a comparison of the two, I mean, come on, 5e Lolth, hands down. Again, also nice because you have both. You can go ahead and have different versions of Lolth in her different appearances. You have both for your game. You could have when she's in human form versus when she transforms into spider form. We've got our 5th edition version of a Sararak. There we go, right next to our 1st edition version of a Sararak. I ran Tomb of Annihilation to its finality to see. He's also got the mask here. We've got the Sphere of Annihilation coming off of his staff. I think I like the robes and like the accoutrement of 5th edition Sararak a lot. But I think I like the overall design of like the face and his body of the 1st edition of Sararak. He looks more menacing to me with the kind of scream here on the 1st edition one. So that one's kind of a toss up for me. Oh, okay, this is our 1st edition Kieran now. Ooh, this one might win. Ooh, yeah. 1st edition Kieran is just badass. It looks more unicorny. I like all of the extra kind of hair about this, the kind of, which looks like it's totally made out of metal. So there's our 1st edition Kieran, and then for reference, there's our 5th edition Kieran. Again, a lot more golden, a lot more shiny on the 5th edition version, but I think for me, the 1st edition one just takes the cake. And the horn looks way better on the 1st edition one. All right, what do we got here? It looks like a Githyanki, I think, or a Gith of some kind. All right. Played Baldur's Gate, you're probably very familiar with the look of a 5th edition Githyanki, which is very green, the kind of tall, poofy hair. So, I do also want to apologize for in my Lego video. I thought one of them was an elf, and it was actually a Gith. In my defense, as you saw there, most Gith I feel like look green, and they chose to have that one just be traditional Lego yellow. We have the Dungeon Master from the D&D cartoon series again. So continuing we have Venger, we have Sheila so far, we have the Dungeon Master. I assume we're going to come across the rest of the characters here within. All right. Now, there is 5th edition Strahd von Zarovich. I don't know if he was supposed to have something in his hand, but he's got the raven there. He's got what looks like maybe a heart or something in his other hand. Some sort of magic, or maybe that's supposed to be a glass. He's on the throne there, which I like. And I think, while they both pay homage to a different form of Dracula, again, this version gives me a very much Symphony of the Night, Dracula awaiting. Was that Richter Belmont to show up? Trevor Belmont? Richter Belmont. Okay, here is our. Now, this, I gotta say, this is a different design. I haven't seen this Glabrazoo design for the miniature. It's usually much more like the one we have in the 5th edition Monster Manual. This one looks a hell of a lot more menacing. This 5e version here with the claws here. It just looks a lot more Hulk-like. The fists in the front look a lot like stronger. Where is our Glabrazoo? So this one just looks. I'm still gonna stand by. I think the claws on the 1st edition one do look like they could do more. They look more almost like insect mandible-y, like a centipede. But this one just looks like this is a bruiser, right? This guy's ready to just mess you up Just gonna pummel you into the dirt. So if we could take the claws off the first edition and put it on the 5th edition, I think that would do it for me. We have the 1E Pit Fiend. Again, this is a much more portly fellow than our 5th edition version, but I think I gotta give it to the 1st edition. I think I just like the design better. I mean, this dude, he might be bigger, but he is ripped. Look at those muscles, man. And I like the big kind of saber-tooth style fangs that he's got going on. And like his wings just look that much more gnarly with like all the bumps and stuff on the back. Whereas our current Pipine, he also obviously, as you can see, is his tail is shorter. But he's bigger. And honestly, I don't feel like this dude needs a weapon to mess me up. I feel like this guy having the mace or this kind of morning star here makes sense. This guy, he doesn't need a weapon. He's my winner for sure. All right. Next up, we have something that's stuck in here. We have the 5E Dwarf. You may recognize this character from the 2014 Player's Handbook. Pretty classic piece of art that we see for the dwarf. So, too crazy there. Next up, we have our 1st edition Shadow. Now, they did also give this one the sort of fade to clear on the design. This one also gives me black suit like Spider-Man vibes with the way the face is designed. But I do feel like the 5th edition version is definitely more menacing. I'm going to have to give it to the 5th edition one for sure. Okay. It's a mimic? It is a mimic. All right, we have a tiny little chest here with the 5th edition mimic in it. Again, the one we've all come to know and love with the purple tongue, the sort of purple vibe, the orange eyes, chest form, kind of standing on its tongue there. What else do we have in here? Oh, here is our classic style Githyanki. Again, with the kind of much more yellow vibes versus our, this guy's a little bent, but versus our 5th edition Githyanki. It's got the more glowy sword there as well. I don't know. I think I gotta give it to the 1st edition Githyanki too. I don't think I really love the new design that much. Oh, is this? Who is this? Another small miniature. We have the 1st edition elf. I don't know if he's got this smudge on his nose here. Green sort of wings on the helmet. The spear, once again, the upside down wielded shield. Okay. What's left? Oh. This is the 5E Blink Dog. I really like this new design for it where it's kind of coming out of the portal, kind of mid-blink. Really like that. That's a really nice change to the classic miniature because normally it's just a dog, basically. All right, we have the 1st edition Knoll, which I'm digging the 1st edition Knoll here. I love the spear coming out the shield as well as this long sort of person catcher situation. Digging the kind of fur cloak, the shield here, the general just. I really like this version of the Knoll. This might be my. I own a lot of Knoll minis because I'm a big fan of using Knolls as a villain. That might be my favorite Knoll that I have. All right, you want to talk about a glow up? Here's our 1st edition green slot. It just looks like a big frog. And then to go from that to this. I think this might be the biggest glow up. Although Strahd from Dracula wannabe to Castlevania Dracula wannabe might be also a close one. Same thing with Lolth. But I think this is a significant improvement on the green slot for sure. All right, what's this? This is an orc or a goblin? Oh, Bugbear. Classic first edition Bugbear. This looks like a Tolkienian goblin to me. Right? Like that's what it gives me is that kind of vibes, like the old school animated Hobbit. And I honestly, I don't know what the fifth edition one's gonna look like, but I know what a fifth edition Bugbear looks like. This dude takes the cake. I love that design. I love that. That's likely gonna be the winner for me. All right, we have our fifth edition Kobold, which is again our little red draconic kind of creature here. Although, what is going on with his face and that mouth? Huh? That's kind of a weird. I don't know what happened there, but the miniature, I'm not too keen on. Design, I prefer the more draconic kobolds personally. I know a lot of you prefer the dog classic style kobolds, which I'm sure we'll see here in a minute. But all right, we have a first edition skeleton knight, which you know could also double as a white. I feel like he's still got all his hair on. Okay, we're getting down to the bottom of the box. This looks like a traditional, say, first edition or no, fifth edition goblin, I think. Right. Oop. Yes. We have our fifth edition kind of orangey yellow goblin. Again, another one looks like the face. We got a little bit of smudging. It looks like his eyebrow is also his eye. But you know, again, you can't. There's no definition on that quiver at all. But nice to see an archer. I feel like we usually don't get a lot of goblin archers in these minis. We usually get a lot of the ones with swords. Okay. All right, we have our first edition dwarf. This is a hard comparison because we've got a female dwarf here wielding a hammer, versus this kind of male dwarf or bearded dwarf at the very least. He's rocking up with. He's got the full backpack. This is a miner, clearly, like somebody who's in the mines. I don't think this is a tradition. Like I guess in theory, if we're going off of just base art, if that's what we're considering to be the quintessential first edition dwarf and the quintessential fifth edition dwarf, I think I have to give it to the first edition dwarf. It just screams more dwarf to me. I'm sure that's probably just the beard and thinking in a more again Tolkienian mindset. That maybe that's just me. Okay. Ooh. What is this? Is the fifth edition elf? Yeah, okay, this is not a fair comparison. Okay. These are like night and day. This elf, very regal, wizardly, spellcastery. Like you want to talk about like at least the dwarves were in the same realm of like fighter types. Like I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to have like a blacked out nose on that elf, but that definitely gives me like Chippendale Rescue Rangers, kind of like when somebody wants to dress up as like a dog or a chipmunk for Halloween or something, a mouse, they black out the tip of their nose. So I'm getting that vibe. That could just be a paint smudge, but I mean, just the difference. This elf from 5th edition just looks so much more like regal and ready to just sling all sorts of spells. So I gotta give it to the 5th edition elf on that one for sure. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, it's broken. This is our first edition. Maybe we can get it to stand up. This is our first edition Kobold. Again, more of the dog like, but it still looks very draconic. in this particular like design. I'm not really getting the dog like look of it. We'll get our where's our 5th edition kobold? Here it is. They are very similar in design, I feel like. These two. To me, they're giving very similar designs, even though they're supposed to be pretty different there. Or maybe it was 2nd edition that made the kobolds more dog-like. I don't know. Okay, what do we have here? What the heck is this thing? Okay, a lemure from 1st edition. Oh man, that. I mean, I guess it does kind of look like a ball of flesh of demon. It also has much more of a traditional lemur look to it. Like the face is kind of vaguely lemurish. So I guess that does make sense. But it's just, I think we're just unfortunately a victim of the 1st edition art here. All right, we have now our 1st edition mimic, just ready to give you a knuckle sandwich here. With it's just a chest with a fist coming out of it. So I think in this instance, I have to give it to the 5th edition mimic, just because it's way cooler of a looking creature with the mouth and the tongue and everything. Okay. We have something else now. I don't think we've seen this one before. What is this? This is... Oh, okay, this is unfair. So here's our 1st edition Gnoll, right? We talked about how we like them. Look at the Gnoll they picked for the 5th edition Gnoll. I mean, come on. This is almost an unfair comparison. This is not a traditional. This is like a... Okay, that might be the coolest Gnoll minifigure that I own, with this kind of gray, almost werewolf-looking hyena vibe with this massive pick scythe. Like, this is so much cooler. Where has this Gnoll been? What book is he from? This is just a regular old Gnoll. It just says Gnoll. Maybe that's what... This is way cooler. I want all of my Gnolls to look like this now. Sorry, 1st edition Gnoll. This one's going to have to go to 5e. Okay. Alright, now we have the 5th edition Lemure, I think is how you technically say it. I know the pronunciation guide is on D&D Beyond. You can hear it on there. You know, again, this one, the paint job, kind of splotchy, but I guess that's to be, you know, that's to kind of come with the territory on this guy. I mean, this one looks like more goofy, like he belongs in like a cartoon, like alongside Space Ghost or something. You know, like a classic Hanna-Barbera action cartoon. This thing is obviously, I don't think it really captures the nature of the artwork of it just being kind of like a slumpy glob of flesh. Obviously the 5th edition art I think is way better, but I think I'm going to give the mini to the 1st edition one just because it's so kooky. What are we down to? Just a couple left. All right. What do we have here? Oh, this must be the 1st edition Blink Dog. Again, some of these I feel like they're, and it's just like it's got a little bobtail, just like it looks like a dog, you know. So I feel like they really went out of their way to just give the 5th edition one a serious little improvement. They're showcasing the teleportation, so we're gonna have to give that one to 5e. Also, I don't think we're gonna get all of the D&D cartoon characters because I think they gave some of them to us in the Stormwreck Isle set. Okay, again, we have our skeleton knight here who just looks like an old dude, basically, with a haircut. And then for the skeleton knight for 5th edition, they made it a dragonborn skeleton knight. So it's just infinitely cooler. And, like, it's in a more battle pose. This is just awesome. I gotta give it, obviously, that one's gonna go to the 5th edition skeleton knight. I think it's just, is it just Goblin and Bugbear now? Okay. Interesting that we went with a yellow Bugbear. I don't feel like we've really seen Bugbears in bright yellow. Now, again, This one is really awesome. They gave it this big battle axe with the kind of curved handle. It's got the antler kind of helmet there. But the yellow design is an interesting choice. And I wonder if the yellow design is purely just because of the first edition Bugbear. Well, it's very cool. I'm still giving it to my boy, the first edition Bugbear, who basically just looks like a big version of a Tolkienian goblin. Um, and again, we're talking classic cartoon style. And then here is our first edition goblin. This guy, rocking a Morning Star and a shield versus our 5th edition one with its bow here. I think just the armor, I think alone is going to make me give it to the 5th edition Goblin. So, there you go, folks. That is the entirety of the 50th anniversary set of D&D minis from our good friends over at WizKids. Like I said, I'll put links in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. Sorry this video took so long. There's just a lot of minis to go through. So, yeah, there's definitely some really solid ones. I love the little Venger mini. I love that we got Venger and Dungeon Master. And again, interesting that it was only Sheila, because I think there were still like Uni and Bobby were missing from the was it this Stormwreck Isle set had like I think it had Eric, Presto, Hank, and Diana. But there's definitely some cool ones in this set that serve a lot of interesting purposes. Again, Flail Snail, real big winner. Again, I wish mine wasn't broken, which I'll have to fix. Was my 5th edition, ampersand dragon. I mean, spider form Lolth is really neat. And then again, like I said, we just gotta give it to 1st edition Mordenkainen. He knows what he wants. He is a wizard. So, anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on these in the comments down below. And I'll see you all. Oh, you know what? Actually, you know what? If you're an older fan of Dungeons and Dragons and have been playing for a while, are there creatures you would have liked to have seen? Now, I know they started doing the classic creature collection, which is just from A to Z from the original monster manual, pulling a monster and making it in that original design. But if you've been playing since 1st edition, or have fond memories of 1st edition, or have played a bunch of 1st edition, is there a creature or a miniature you wish they had made that they'd taken a 1st edition version of it and then made a 5th edition version of it as well? I've recorded the video, I haven't released it yet. The kind of promo mini for this set is a 1st edition version of the Red Dragon, which is on the front cover of the boxes of the bricks for these minis, which actually does show the Green Knight and the Blue Wizard fighting off against that Red Dragon kind of on its bed of treasure, which is really cool. I would have liked to have seen, though, I mean, if they hadn't made that the classic, like the standalone promo figure, I would have liked personally 1st edition Red Dragon and 5th edition Red Dragon in this set. So we could have had a little comparison like we did with the Gold Dragon. I mean, obviously, Owlbear is a pretty good one. If they've done a couple of different versions of the classic Owlbear, so that I can see why they didn't do that in this set. But yeah, I'm curious what you would have liked to have seen inside here. They pulled out a lot of classic and iconic like enemies and villains. Like we have a Sararak, Vecna, Strahd, Mordenkainen, and Lolth. But yeah, I'm curious if there's any other ones you would have liked to have seen the 1st edition one and the 5th edition one, brought back into mini form, which I said is also very interesting because 2025, we're getting a brand new monster manual with new art. So in theory, all of these minis in their current form have the potential to basically be like null and void, if you will. Obviously, they're still minis. They'll still work regardless at your game, but the design of this mini may be slightly different. For example, like I have the classic black, white, and blue dragons, I think it is, from like the old Wizards of the Coast set. And those will no longer, even just the more updated versions of the dragons, those will kind of be like legacy as they've redesigned the way all the dragons look. Like you're going to have that much more like melted skull face black dragon, which is so cool. But yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.